Long before sacrifice became tradition, the kingdom of Elduin was ruled by a royal house blessed by the gods. The land flourished, harvest never failed, and peace lingered like a gentle wind. But a prince once stood where Prince Kalex now stood. When the gods demanded sacrifice to spare the kingdom from ruin, that prince chose power over compassion. He allowed an innocent girl to die in his place, then ascended the throne with clean hands and a stained soul. The gods were not pleased. They cursed the kingdom with a punishment meant to wound the heart of royalty itself. Every 5 years, a young pure maiden shall be chosen to be the false princess. She will be wed to the prince for 1 whole day, from sunset to sundown. At dawn the following morning, she will be sacrificed to cleanse the land. Only then may the prince take his true bride. Fear became tradition. Tradition became law. And the law was something no one dared to question. Prince Kalex stood before the throne, fist clenched, jaw tight. "This must end, father," he said. His words echoing through the palace hall. The king did not rise. "You speak as though this tradition is ours to break." "It is murder," Kalex replied. "And you dress it in silk and prayer." Standing beside the throne was Lady Seraphine, hands folded gracefully, lips curved in a calm, knowing smile. She had been promised to Kalex since childhood, the bride who would follow the sacrifice. The one meant to rule. "The gods demand balance," she said softly. "One life for the kingdom." Kalex turned to her, eyes burning. "And if that life were yours?" Her smile never faltered. "Then I would understand my duty." But they both knew she didn't mean it. The king rose at last. "The announcement will be made at dawn. The girl will be selected. And you, my son, will do your duty. This is the fate of a crown prince." Kalex turned to leave. "It will not be my fate." On the other side of things, Naira learned early that silence was safer than words. Her father drank from sunrise to sunset, anger simmering beneath every breath. When he was sober, he ignored her. When he wasn't, his hands spoke where words failed. She worked wherever she could, cleaning, caring, serving, until she found herself in the palace kitchens. There, at least, the beating stopped. She had no mother. No friends. No one who cared whether she lived or died. So when the announcement rang through the kingdom, that the false princess had been chosen, Naira already knew how it would end. Her father's eyes gleamed. "They'll pay for you," he said, gripping her arm. "Finally, you will come to good use." She did not scream when he sold her. She did not cry when the guards came. Naira had already mourned and buried herself long ago. She was bathed, dressed, crowned. Silk felt strange on her skin. Gold weighed heavy on her head. The palace whispered her name with pity. Naira was led into a quiet chamber where a single man stood. Prince Kalex turned when he heard her footsteps. This was the girl. Not a criminal. Not a sinner. Just a tired, lonely soul. "I'm sorry," he said immediately. She met his gaze, calm, resigned. "You don't need to be my prince." "Are you scared?" he asked. Naira shook her head. "I have nowhere to run to. No one waiting for me, so maybe this was my fate." "Your fate is not this kingdom's to decide," Kalex whispered. "You are right, Your Highness," Naira replied. "It is the choice of our gods, and it seems they have made their choice." And somewhere, unseen, the gods began to watch. The following day, the bells rang at dawn. Their sound drifted across the kingdom, and soft, melodic, and cruel in its cheer. The people gathered along the palace roads, dressed in their finest, faces carefully composed. Some whispered prayers. Others turned away. No one celebrated loudly. Everyone understood what this wedding meant. Naira was dressed in white and gold, her hair braided with tiny pearls meant to symbolize purity. Prince Kalex waited at the altar, dressed in ceremonial black and silver. His expression was controlled, but his hands betrayed him, clenched so tightly his knuckles whitened. When Naira walked into the altar, all eyes turned. She was stunning. Prince Calix couldn't help but admire such a beauty. It was truly such a shame that she was the fake princess. The high priest raised his staff. By decree of the gods and law of the land, he intoned. This union shall stand from sunset to sundown. The vows were spoken. Calix's voice wavered only once, when he promised protection. Naira's voice was steady. She had made peace with her ending long before this moment. When the crown was placed upon her head, the crowd bowed. And just like that, Naira, once invisible, became a princess. For one day. As they walked from the hall together, Calix leaned closer and whispered, "You look amazing." Naira did not answer. She only smiled gently, as if thanking him for his kindness. "For today," he said gently, turning to face her, "the world is yours. Is there anything you would like to do?" Naira hesitated. No one had ever asked her that before, not truly. She looked down at her hands, still unfamiliar with the weight of the rings placed upon her fingers. When she spoke, her voice was soft but certain. "Please," she said, lifting her eyes to his. "Take me to any place I could not go to, as a commoner." Calix studied her for a long moment. Then, slowly, a smile touched his lips, sad, but resolute. "Then we will go where servants I cannot go but a princess can," he said. He offered his arm. Naira took it. The palace gates opened slowly, their iron hinges groaning as though protesting the choice being made. Naira stepped through them at Prince Calix's side, her heart pounding. She had lived her entire life within walls, either the crumbling ones of her childhood home or the towering stone of the palace kitchens. Beyond them lay a world she had only ever glimpsed from a distance. The little girl tugged at Naira's gown. "Are you really a princess?" Naira knelt, meeting the child's gaze. "Only for today." The girl smiled as if that were enough. They visited places Naira had only imagined, the apothecary filled with drying herbs, the library where commoners were forbidden entry, the old watchtower overlooking the fields. At every turn, Naira absorbed the world with wide-eyed wonder. The place they visited was the palace garden laying hushed beneath the deepening sky. It was late. Undoubtedly, the last place they would visit together. Prince Calix stopped beside the fountain, where water whispered endlessly into the basin below. He turned to Naira, studying her as if committing every detail to memory. "What is your dream?" he asked quietly. Naira did not answer at once. She lowered her gaze to her hands hardened by labor, marked by scars she had long stopped noticing. Each line told a story of survival, not of hope. Slowly, she smiled. "I didn't have a dream," she said softly. "But today was more than any dream I could have possibly had." She lifted her eyes to him then, calm and steady. "So please, my prince," she continued. "You need not feel guilty. I have already made peace with my fate." The words struck Calix like a blade. He reached for her hand, holding it as though it were something fragile and sacred. "Naira," he said, voice breaking despite himself, "your peace does not make this right." She squeezed his hand in return, as if comforting him. "Right or not, it is what must be done." Dawn had barely touched the palace windows when the guards entered Naira's chamber. Their armor clinked softly, almost respectfully, as if even they were ashamed of what they had come to do. One of them reached for her wrist. "It is time." Naira rose without resistance. As they turned toward the door, steel rang sharply through the room. Prince Calix stood between them and the exit, sword drawn, eyes dark with resolve. "Release her," he said. The guards froze. "My prince, what are you doing?" one of the guards whispered. Calix did not look away from the men before him. "I will not repeat myself again," he said calmly. His grip tightened on the sword. "Release her now." He stepped forward and seized Naira's hand, pulling her free from the guard's grasp. "My prince, please don't do this," Naira murmured. Calix did not mind Naira but met the guards their gaze, unwavering. "Do not follow us," he warned. "I have no intention of fighting any of you. But if I must, I will." For a long moment, no one moved. Then Calix turned, Naira's hand firmly in his, and together they ran out of the chamber, down the corridor, and toward a fate neither the gods nor the kingdom had planned. The palace walls vanished behind them, swallowed by the early morning mist. Branches clawed at their clothes, and the uneven forest floor threatened to trip them with every step. Naira stopped abruptly, turning to face Prince Calix, her hand still clutched in his. Her eyes were wide, searching, sharp. "Prince Calix," she said, voice trembling, "do you what you're just done?" Calix met her gaze steadily. "I know," he admitted. "Every step of the way. And yet, I cannot let them take you. Not today." Naira swallowed, her chest tightening. "And me? What about me? You're risking everything for a girl you barely know." She hesitated, her voice softening. "I have no family, no home. I have nothing to fight for. But you're putting your life, the throne, and even your family on the line for me." Calix squeezed her hand, his jaw firm. "Because this isn't just about you or me. This is about what is right. About ending a cruelty that has lasted generations. If I do not act, who will?" She shook her head, her tears threatening to fall. "And if we fail? If your father's men catch us, if the gods are angered, we will die. I am not worth your life, why prince? Please let me go." He cupped her face gently, tilting her chin up so their eyes met. "Naira, listen to me. A life is worth more than a crown, more than a throne, more than any law written in fear. I will not let anyone harm you. And if the kingdom, or the gods, or anyone else wants to punish me for it, then let it be so." It was not long before the news got to the king. The king's voice boomed through the council chamber. "They must be found. The girl and the prince, bring them back. If either resist, eliminate the girl first. The prince, you will capture him alive. The gods will not forgive hesitation." The court murmured in anxious agreement. Even the seasoned soldiers felt the weight of the order. They knew the false princess's life had always been a delicate balance between duty and cruelty, but now the heir's defiance had thrown everything into chaos. Outside, the first scouts mounted their horses, bows and swords at the ready, following the faint trail through the misty forest. And so, the hunt began. The forest finally thinned, giving way to rolling hills and smoke curling from small chimneys. Naira and Prince Calix emerged onto a dirt road, exhausted but alive. At the edge of the road was a village. Children ran past carrying baskets of fruit, and the villagers paused in their chores, curious eyes fixed on the strangers. Calix tightened his hand on Naira's, giving her a small, reassuring squeeze. "We need to be careful," he whispered. "We cannot reveal who we truly are." Naira nodded, brushing a stray lock of hair from her face. "Then let's be ordinary. Just for now." They stepped into the village square, where a few villagers had gathered. The smell of fresh bread and herbs filled the air, mixing with the faint scent of livestock and the earth after morning dew. A kindly woman with silver-streaked hair approached first. "Good travelers," she called, smiling, "what brings you to our village?" Calix bowed slightly, hiding his royal posture. "My name is Calix and this is my wife Naira," he said simply. "Travelers looking for a place to rest, and perhaps, somewhere to settle." Naira gave a shy nod. "We seek work, and peace. A place to belong." The villagers exchanged glances. Some murmured quietly, but the warmth in the woman's eyes did not falter. "You are welcome here," she said. "We have a spare hut on the edge of the village. You are free to stay as long as you like. And if you are willing, there is work to be had at the farm or helping with the market. Calix's eyes met Naira's, relief spreading across his face. Thank you, he said. You do not know what this means to us. Naira allowed herself a small, genuine smile. The woman guided them toward the hut, chatting about village routines, while children ran ahead to show the newcomers the small gardens and paths. The days passed slowly, yet each moment felt infinitely precious. Naira learned the rhythm of the village, how to sweep the small cottage floor without disturbing the chickens scratching outside, how to knead dough with patience, how to tend the garden so the vegetables thrived in the sun. Every task, simple and honest, filled her with a joy she had never known. Prince Calix joined her at the farm each morning. He carried bundles of hay, fed the goats, and laughed when he tripped over the uneven paths. Naira found herself laughing too, the sound bubbling up from a part of her she had long thought buried. In the evenings, they walked along the fields, watching the sunset paint the sky with streaks of gold and crimson. Sometimes, villagers paused to greet them, asking if they needed anything. The couple always replied with the same modesty, introducing themselves simply as travelers, husband and wife, seeking a quiet life. The following day was the lantern dance. The village square glowed in the soft light of hundreds of lanterns. Each one swayed gently in the night breeze, casting flickering golden reflections on cobblestone paths. The villagers gathered, music from drums and flutes filling the air with a lively, joyous rhythm. Naira's eyes widened as she took it all in. She had never seen anything so simple, yet so beautiful. For once, she was not a servant. Not a princess. Just a woman, walking beside the man who had risked everything to save her. Prince Calix offered his hand, bowing slightly with a teasing smile. May I have this dance? Naira laughed softly, a sound that made him smile even more. You may, she said, letting him lead her into the circle of dancers. As they moved together, the world around them blurred. Children ran past, villagers clapped and cheered, but none of it mattered. Their hands brushed, fingers intertwined, hearts beating in quiet rhythm. Her breath caught. She had never been spoken to like this, never been seen with such fierce tenderness. Slowly, she leaned in, resting her forehead against his shoulder as they continued to sway. Later, that day they returned to their small hut, the village quiet under the soft glow of the moon. Calix lit a small fire, its warmth filling the tiny space, while Naira settled beside him on a woven mat. I never imagined a night like this, she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Neither did I, he replied, brushing a stray lock of hair from her face. But it feels right. Just us. Naira leaned into him, her hand resting over his heart. I feel safe with you, my prince. Then can I kiss you? He asked. Naira nodded slightly. Calix's lips found hers in a gentle kiss, tender at first, but as the kiss grew deeper, Naira stopped him. Calix, we can't do this, you know what this means if they catch us. Prince Calix held her hand gently. I know, but I do not care, all I care about is you in this moment, so please trust me. Naira placed a soft kiss on his lips. I do. They spent the night wrapped in each other's arms, speaking in quiet confessions and laughter, falling asleep beneath the soft hum of the forest outside. For the first time, they slept without fear. Naira had allowed herself to believe that this life, the freedom, the simple days, the quiet love, could last forever. Following morning, she woke before the sun, slipping quietly out of the hut. She wanted to gather vegetables from the farm and prepare breakfast for Prince Calix, just as she had grown accustomed to doing. The air was cool, the forest serene, until the sound of armored boots broke the silence. From between the trees, palace guards emerged, their expressions hard, ice cold. Where is the prince? One demanded, voice sharp. Naira's chest tightened, but she held her ground. I don't know, she said firmly. She could not betray him. She knew the punishment awaiting him if they captured him now. The guards exchanged a glance, then one stepped forward, grabbing her roughly by the arm. "You will come with us, girl. No more lies." "I will not," Naira shouted, struggling, but the guards were too strong. Within moments, they had dragged her into the shadows of the forest and toward the palace. Meanwhile, Calix woke to find the hut empty. The fire from last night had burned low, and the smell of breakfast never reached him. Panic clawed at his chest. He stepped outside, only to meet a young villager running toward him, breathless. "Calix," the boy shouted, nearly tripping over his own feet. "Your wife, she was dragged away by palace guards. They took her away." Calix's heart froze. He dropped the hat he had been holding and clenched his fist, eyes burning. "Naira," he whispered, before breaking into a sprint. Through the village, through the forest, he ran toward the palace walls, toward the gates where duty and tradition threatened to take the one person he loved. The capital square was packed. Crowds pressed close, eager, or perhaps resigned, to witness the ritual that had haunted the kingdom for generations. The king and queen sat in their high seats, silence and fear lingering in the air. Naira was dragged forward, her hands bound but her spirit unbroken. She stepped onto the altar with calm, measured steps, meeting the eyes of those who were watching. From the crowd, Lady Seraphine advanced, her skirt brushing the steps, face pale with anger and jealousy. She slapped Naira sharply across the face. "How dare you take what is mine?" she hissed, voice cutting through the murmurs of the crowd. Naira lifted her head slowly, meeting Seraphine's glare with unflinching eyes. "The prince was never yours to take," she said, calm but firm. A flush of rage colored Seraphine's cheeks. "Once you are dead," she spat, "I will marry the prince, and you will be forgotten." Naira bent her head slightly, a small, knowing smile playing on her lips. "Maybe you are right," she said softly, almost teasing. "But whether in death or in life, I will always have the prince's heart." In that moment, Prince Calix stepped forward, sword in hand, eyes blazing. Every muscle in his body radiated determination. The kingdom, the gods, the tradition, they would all have to reckon with him if they wanted Naira. The stage was set for a confrontation that would not only decide Naira's fate, but the fate of the kingdom itself. Calixus across the square. She felt the chains of fear loosen around her heart, because he was there. Then still gleamed in the sunlight. Prince Calix stepped onto the altar, sword drawn, standing directly between Naira and the priest. The guards froze, unsure how to respond. "Step back," he commanded, voice carrying over the square. "Release her." "My prince, don't," Naira whispered, heart aching for him. "They will." "I do not care," Calix interrupted, jaw set. "I will not let them harm you." The king rose, voice booming. "Calix, stop this foolish and you will be forgiven." "I will not," Calix shouted. "I renounce the crown. I renounce the throne. Everything I am, I give up, if it means she lives." The soldiers shifted uneasily. Courtiers gasped. Lady Seraphine's face twisted with fury, disbelief, and jealousy. The king's voice boomed across the palace square, cold and unyielding. "Even if you renounce your throne, she must still die so the kingdom might live." Calix stepped closer, sword still drawn, eyes blazing with determination. "You can no longer use her for the sacrifice," he said steadily. "She is no longer meets the requirements for the ritual." The king frowned, shock and anger warring across his face. "Calix, what have you done?" Calix met his father's gaze without flinching. "What I needed to do. So, if you must sacrifice someone, let it be me. Let Naira go." A hush fell over the courtyard. Even the soldiers paused, unsure whether to obey or stand aside. Then the high priest's eyes widened. The ceremonial staff trembled in his hand, and a deep, resonant voice filled the square, not his, but speaking through him. The curse has been broken, he said. A prince willing to give up everything, even his own life, for the maiden he loves. The gods are pleased. Your courage and sincerity have freed the kingdom. The curse is now gone. Light and warmth swept through the courtyard. The guards' grips loosened, and Naira stepped free, breathing the air as if for the first time in her life. Relief flooded her face, and she moved toward Calix. But then, suddenly, a sharp movement from behind. Lady Seraphine lunged, a knife pressed to Naira's neck. "No. I won't let you have him," she murmured, voice trembling with rage and desperation. The crowd froze. Gasps echoed through the square. Calix's voice rang out. "Seraphine, let her go." Seraphine's eyes glittered. "What's so special about her that you are willing to even throw away your own life?" Calix replied, "Because I love her." Tears began to fall down Naira's face, giving her the kind of courage she never knew she had. The girl she had tried to crush was no longer the helpless kitchen maid. Weeks of love, care, and him had forged her into something stronger than any palace training could teach. With lightning speed, Naira bent down, flipped Seraphine onto the ground, and wrestled the knife from her hands. The guards moved in, quickly restraining Seraphine. Naira stood tall, breathing steadily. She stepped into Calix's arms, their hands entwined, hearts beating in quiet triumph. Through courage, bravery, and the strength of true love, the kingdom had been freed, and the girl who was once the false princess had become real.